All right, I know we're still reeling from that bowl game collapse, but we got a big one. Kevin Concepcion, KC, out of NC State, has committed to Texas A&M out of the transfer portal, and he was a guy that everybody was after. He took a lot of visits, and it sounds like his visit with Bama went really well. Well, his visit with A&M went even better, and he's coming to Aggie land. Major credit to Holman Wiggins. He's proving that he can get the guy that everyone's after. He did it 3 times this portal already. Credit to Elko, credit to the staff, credit to the NIL funds of Texas A&M. They got their guy, and they add exactly what they needed to add to this receiver room. They needed bodies, but they needed ready now, productive experience, and that's what KC Concepcion brings you. He had a breakout freshman year, a little bit of a sophomore slump, did not match what he did in that 1,000-plus yard all-purpose freshman season, but he has all the tools you could ever ask for, all the experience you could ask for, and a change of scenery seems to be exactly what a guy like this would need. You also added Mario Craver, who I would argue gives you a little bit of both. He gives you the upside, true freshman, productive freshman season, and then you get that pure upside in Micah Hudson with the absolutely elite high school tape. Your future and your now in this receiver room is really, really set up for success because, of course, you bring back Noah Thomas. Of course, you add true freshman Jerome Miles. His recovery, his path his freshman year to early playing time and productivity, still up in the air. But those are some great pieces to have in your room next year. And you're looking at Noah and Casey as your de facto or just true starters. I mean, you would easily say that right now. And then a competition to go around. Hudson and Crave are probably candidates to get in there. Then you have a Terry Bussey discussion to have. I want to get into that. And what do you do with Bussey now that you've added to this receiver room? And a lot of Aggies feel like you might need to add to this DB room. I want to get into that today, but really want to start with KC and exactly what he brings to the table. And it's a hell of a lot. He's a versatile guy. So thanks for being here. Like and sub. I appreciate you being here through the whole season. We're going to keep the content going. This will be a bit of a shorter video. I'm going to give you my post-bowl game kind of reaction and thoughts of the team as a whole right after I'm done recording this. So this will be a little bit of an appetizer before that one. That should drop later today. But for now, Concepcion, the receiver room, the offense, and what do we do with Terry Bussey? So let's start with Concepcion. If you want to give an Aggie comp for Concepcion, when you watch his tape, I see a little bit of Anais Smith. I think Anais is probably a little bit less burdened by gravity, a little bit of a smaller guy, a little bit quicker. But KC has that wiggle. He has that agility. He has that side-to-side make-you-miss ability. But more so than that, he has that never-say-die attitude with the ball in his hand that Anais had, where he just gets physical, he gets mean with the ball, he makes people miss, he can break angles. And where I think maybe Anais is a little bit quicker, Casey's a little bit longer, and I think he has just this elite acceleration on the field where he's a bit of an angle breaker. You can see him against ACC defenses, but if he has open space and a guy has an angle, well, he's going to accelerate and get to full speed on a dime and break angles and accelerate into holes because he was also a major threat in the running game for NC State. They ran him a lot. I think he had 40-plus carries his freshman year. Again, in a down sophomore year, he had only 19 carries. I'll pull his stat profile up so you guys can take a look at that. But there's a lot that KC can do on the football field, and it is beyond just pure receiving talent. Now, major threat in the catch and run. One of his best attributes is the ability to catch and then immediately be a elite ball carrier a split second after making the reception. He's immediately looking to find daylight, immediately looking to make guys miss, and he did that very, very effectively, especially his freshman year. Now, I'll be honest, sophomore year, a little bit more drops, a little bit less consistency, but again, a change of scenery could really help a guy like this out. So you can even see he had 4 pass attempts in his first 2 years at NC State. Not afraid to mix things up with KC Concepcion. He took several handoffs out of the Wildcat. They get him involved in a lot of ways because he's the kind of guy you want the ball in his hands as often as possible. So again, I'll go back to the Anais comparison. It's just a little bit faster, a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit less quick, but just that willingness to shake guys and just get extra yardage is there. Speaking on his strength and size, he's not the biggest guy. I think he's listed at 5'11", 187. But again, what he does so well, especially in the running game and even in open field, is he accelerates hard into the hole. He's, as a runner, if there's daylight, he's going to hit it with conviction. And oftentimes his torque and his acceleration will get him extra yardage even without the size you would think to be able to be a good trucking back or whatever you would call it, a good guy that gets extra yardage. He hits it so hard that he gets that extra yardage, and he can drag guys forward with just that pure explosiveness. So we're hyping him up. We're talking a lot about what he brings to the table. I want to kind of talk about what this room looks like, and we've talked about it quite a bit, but now that we're kind of seeing the big picture here, very well could be done working on the offensive side of the ball right now. because you've added the 3 receivers we mentioned, you've added several tight ends, you bring back Noah Thomas, you bring back your running back stable, which is huge. Right now, I would project Noah and Concepcion as absolute starters for this offense next year. And then who's that third guy? Is it Mario Craver? I think there's a really good chance it is. He brings experience and upside. Is it Micah Hudson? I think if he's not the third guy in that rotation, very good chance he's the fourth guy. Where does Terry Bussey fit? I want to get into that with you guys real quick because that's a big discussion that's going on right now. The ripple effect of Bussey and his ability to play both sides of the ball. So let's take things back. Bussey came in with kind of a flexible mindset. I think the coaches had a flexible mindset, at least what that they portrayed towards us. I'm sure they had somewhat of a plan, kind of like a roadmap for what he would be. I think the first couple weeks of fall camp, it sounded like he started on the defensive side of the ball, and then looking at their needs and who was emerging at receiver, they decided, well, we need another weapon on offense, especially with Ruben Owens going down. So they fully committed to him being an offensive player about 2 weeks into camp, right after the Ruben Owens injury. I think that was the first or second scrimmage, which should be about 2 weeks in. And we saw, kind of a steady burn from Bussey throughout the year. I wouldn't say he ever became a go-to guy or anything like that, but he showed some good skills catching the ball. He showed some good stuff in the open field, and I think more of his issues were being a consistent ball carrier for the offense, getting him the ball in space, and I think that really culminated in a pretty strong bowl game where you saw what he can do in the open field. I think he had 3 or 4 touches that game, and I think you would lean into that more if you were going forward, getting him the ball in the flat, getting him in space, getting him screens, getting him going side to side. Can he fill that same role next year when you have a bunch of receivers that you might want to have the ball in their hands quite often, like a Craver or a Hudson or a Casey Concepcion, and you get your running back stable back? And those guys, Owens needs touches, Moss needs touches. Or do you move him to DB? A lot of Aggies are pretty apprehensive about this DB room going forward. Des Ricks had a rough bowl game. You're missing BJ Mays next year. Safeties took a bit of a regression path the last quarter of the year. Does Bussey slide over to that corner spot? Let me ask you guys this. Do you think Bussey is a surefire upgrade after developing on the offensive side of the ball for a full season and finally working himself into maybe his most productive game in the bowl game? Do you think moving him back and kind of resetting that development on the defensive side of the ball, and that's good enough to be a day one starter at DB? I think it's possible. I think he's pretty damn skilled and talented. I think he has a great mindset. I think he's a great worker. But I think Bussey's an offensive player right now. And I think whatever offense you have and whoever you bring in, I think there's room for a guy like Terry Bussey as kind of a gadget guy or just a ball carrier on the offensive side of the ball. And he's put on some weight, man. He looked really big in the bowl game. Last measurement was 195. I think handoffs are there for him. I think inside and outside stuff is there for him. And again, I think he showed a lot of good stuff in the receiving game. And I think there's more development to come there. The truth is, you can do whatever the hell you want with a guy like Terry Bussey, and that's the beauty of getting an athlete that was so versatile. And that definitely factored into his 5-star attribute coming out of high school, just the sheer versatility. So I don't think there's a wrong answer for Bussey. I think there's a path where he could play on both sides of the ball. But right now, I just think you add him to that offensive arsenal. I think him out there maybe as your third receiver or fourth receiver. You like to rotate 6 or 7 guys. Colin Klein has talked about that. So the numbers would be Concepcion and Noah, Craver, Hudson, Bussey, and then Jerome Miles, whoever can develop between Isaiah Williams, Bethel Roman, Ernest Campbell. Those are your options there, and I think there's absolutely room for a guy like Bussey out there to get several snaps a game. And I just think that a guy like him and Concepcion and having Marcel Reed and his versatility just makes you such a versatile outfit offensively that I want to see them lean into that. But again, if you feel like moving him over can equate to an upgrade at DB, then do it. But I would argue that he should keep somewhat of an offensive role in doing that. So I'd like to get your thoughts on Bussey. I'd like to get your thoughts on the room. Casey Concepcion, man, I mean, just reemphasizing the credit we should give Holman Wiggins for getting this guy. This was a long battle. It was a guy that wanted to take all of his visits. It was a guy that canceled his initial visit to A&M to get to Bama first. He got out of Dodge. We got him back on campus, sat for a few days. Now he's committed to A&M. So they're proving they can get what they want at receiver, recruiting the position great out of high school. Just added an athlete, I think, for 2026 yesterday that trends to be a receiver for the future at A&M. I think this offensive recruiting is off to a really, really good start under Elko, Wiggins, and company in year one. And the offense is looking very, very promising next year. We'll talk more about it in later videos, but you get that Trey Zune announcement. If you're starting 5 at offensive line, full running back stable, including hopefully a healthy Le'Veon Moss. We'll probably get further context on that injury come springtime. You get Ruben Owens back, and now you have this really, really exciting receiver room and a few tight end additions, developing Thor. Hopefully Donovan Green can come back to form. Keody Armstrong could get some early playing time. I mean, everything is around there for Reed. Reed has the keys to a Lambo right now, man. This offense is very promising, but there's obviously a ton of work to do on the defensive side of the ball, especially in that interior defensive line and building out a full rotation there. You need to add some bodies there in a big way. So we'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of room to add there because you have a second window coming up in spring. A lot of teams still playing right now. A lot of guys still could enter the portal. That happens. You added a lot of guys late last year in that spring window. Let's see what happens there. But for now, you could probably say the offensive work is done if you want. So give me your thoughts, guys. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in my post-bowl game, kind of rehashing the end of the season, kind of talking about where we are now. In the next video, I'll see you then.